they're off. Welcome to Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management by Dynasty Financial Partners and hosted by CEO Shirl Penney.
Welcome to Season 5 of Around the Track. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management. I'm your host, Shirl Penney, founder and CEO of Dynasty Financial Partners, and I'm incredibly excited about this episode because I'm joined by Rick Rieder, who many of you will know, certainly if you're in the investment field, who's a great friend of the firm, but is also the Chief Investment Officer of the global fixed income business at BlackRock. Rick, thanks so much for sitting down and having this conversation.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, we've talked about the only rule that we have on the Round the Track, which is we're going to try to make our way around the virtual track behind us in 15 minutes. I'm going to ask you 8 rapid-fire questions, and we'll see if we can do it as close as possible in 15 minutes. You ready to roll?
I'm ready to go.
All right, so in life and in racing, how you break out of the gate matters. So let me give you a nice, easy softball. Obviously, a lot of the viewers are going to know you and your role, but maybe there's some that don't. Tell us a little bit about your role at BlackRock, but maybe share a little something that the audience may not know about Rick Rieder.
So I'm CIO, so I'm responsible for almost $3 trillion in assets. You know, day to day, I run.
That's 3 trillion.
3 trillion.
Trillion.
Yeah.
You said that so like nonchalant. Yeah, 3 trillion.
So every Monday through Friday, I wake up, and now the markets are open, and on Saturday nights in some places, it creates a little bit of stress. But anyway, so I directly manage about 150 billion that I'm actively managing on a regular basis. So anyway, it's super exciting, spanning. And also I run some big equity portfolios as well, which, I think understanding the whole cap structure and where you're in debt and equity, I think is super cool. Listen, I'm part of what drives me. I think this is the cool, I would love to play baseball, love to play shortstop for the Baltimore Orioles. Never going to happen, was never going to happen. But this is as close as it comes that, I think investing, it's most dynamic, exciting. Every day is different. I'm pretty blown away and by the way, now technology changing the world, so many different things in AI. So anyway, I love what I do. I work crazy hours, and like when we go on vacation and my wife says, you're doing what? I'm sitting at the pool and you're doing work. Like, no, I'm not. I enjoy doing it. So I enjoy reading about companies. Think about your company. I love reading about like how do people get there. I love entrepreneurial stuff. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. So like reading about how did Steve Jobs create it, or reading, organizational books, like how do people get from point A to point B? I don't know, that to me is, I think it's super fun.
Awesome. So I played baseball in college, small Division III school, Bates College up in Maine. But in the off season, I used to work out with Mike Bordick.
Really?
He's from Maine as well. So and shortstop, for the Orioles. I think Cal Ripken said he's one of the only people in baseball he would have moved from short to third base for, because he's a pro's pro. So we'll talk more. We'll talk more about that later. So, look, as you said, you're traveling around. You're meeting all kinds of fascinating, interesting people. Talking about not just the markets but the industry. So, and we'll get back to the markets. But let me ask you a question more on the macro basis. If you look out, you picked a time frame, next 5-10 years, whether it's wealth or asset management. What are some big macro trends that you think are going to have significant impact on the industry?
So if you go back 20, 30 years, you think about how the world worked. I think about fixed income all the time, how it used to work about, the banks borrow short, lend long. Think about what's happened today, the evolution of how you invest, models, ETFs, precision. You think about how, I say this all the time, about how interest rates, Fed raises rates, the economy has to slow. Actually, it's not that way anymore, because the way the debt markets work, we tranche the debt. It's all about precision, sophistication, technology, using automation to change. How do you think about stress testing, scenario analysis? Listen, I think this industry, I will say one thing, people love knowing who manages their money,
right?
Who's responsible for their money, because that's the most important thing to them in terms of they created wealth. Do they trust the person? But is that person or team or set of teams, are they doing it in a sophisticated way using all the tools available? And that I think is where this industry is going.
Yeah, we talk a lot about at Dynasty the cyborging of the industry, right? Taking the best of human connection,
totally,
empathy, especially from an advisor standpoint around life events for a client, but then combining it with technology to scale the parts of the business that perhaps will be more commoditized over time. So agree with what you're saying there. Let me reverse it. Looking out over the next, like I said, 5-10 years, what are you really concerned about specific to the industry?
The debt in the country.
Yeah.
It's too big, and it's too big. And policymakers, I spoke to one very senior policymaker yesterday, and get this, well, we've always run with a lot of debt. No, we haven't. We've never run with this level of debt coming due and the debt service, because we're rolling off zero coupon treasury bills and replacing with fives, and the multiplier effect because we can't deal with the other issues around it. That is going to be, I don't think it's going to be a 2025 problem, but I think the reason why you're seeing gold, Bitcoin, and a series of art, collectibles, the world is realizing,
baseball cards.
Dude, by the way, I had no idea that baseball cards, I thought everything went digital.
Yeah.
But it's all about this, I need something in a world where the reserve currency could be threatened. That is something that I think is, obviously this is the deglobalization of the world, the geopolitical, but that's the one that I think is in front of us that I just don't think people realize how pernicious that could get at some point. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong too, but I think unfortunately you might be right. So there's a lot of people that are probably watching this conversation who are entrepreneurs, they're leaders, they're business builders. And earlier in the conversation, we joked about that $3 trillion number. Maybe a two-part question, if I can cheat a little bit here. What is it like to manage $3 trillion, right? And more specific, the question I was going to ask, that has to be, and you said it can be stressful at times, I think maybe being a bit humble there or modest. How have you learned to deal with the stress, the anxiety that comes with that level of success?
So, I think I work crazy hard, but we work crazy hard, hopefully in a thoughtful way, to make sure that our portfolios are in a situation that we understand what's our tail risk all the time. Mm-hmm. What is the thing? I learned, actually when I was at business school at Wharton, I learned about how you operate a casino. And the thing that really hit me, and I'll never forget it, somebody said to me, how do we make money at a casino? Well, the more people come and they bring $200 with them. When they lose it, they leave. And I think about that all the time. I can't lose 200.
Right.
What is my tail risk? What's my stress testing? What's my scenario analysis? And then get the portfolio in a good spot. And then I believe in this thesis. You have to feel it in your belly that you're taking risk, because you can't generate enough return for clients. I mean, if it was easy, everybody not, and I heard when somebody said one of the world's great investors, and I still don't even think of that. I think about if I don't come in tomorrow and figure it out, I don't even think that I think I'm okay, but you gotta get better. You gotta keep getting better. You gotta keep using new tools. And then you gotta wake up in the morning and you have to feel stress, but also the exhilaration of I'm going to try and do something that is unique and then generate return. And I truly take it. I really believe. I know a lot of my clients. I know a lot of investors. I know I know manage money for teachers, and I take it very, very seriously. And if you think you're doing as good a job as you can, then I think it's pretty uplifting, and it helps you get through that. You don't want to screw it up for them either.
Yeah, and I know a number of your partners at BlackRock, so I know you guys have a very similar mentality that we have around here, which is we're going to be the firm that leapfrogs ourselves. Right. So I find that winners focus on themselves, and sometimes losers focus on the competition. So not surprised to hear the way that you answer that question. I had lunch recently with a good mutual friend of ours, Rob Capito, and we were talking about what an interesting time it is to be alive right now. And certainly what an interesting and fascinating time it is in the fixed income market. So kind of ask your question now more in your wheelhouse, but given the geopolitical environment, the rate environment, we sit here, just so I can timestamp your answer, a week away from the election here in the United States. What are you telling clients right now, more specific to the fixed income market?
First thing, I think, everybody spends a lot of time buying insurance and hedging. And one thing I've learned in my career is you got to be careful about paying too much for insurance or hedging. Make sure you're comfortable with the risk you have on and manage your beta, your dispersion, how much risk you have in the portfolio. Today, I think this is an extraordinary time to get income. I call it fixed income. It's a great time to buy income that's not fixed. Like you don't need to go out the yield curve, just buy a bunch of, now because we've backed up interest rates to a good level, and now you can buy 2 and 3 year paper with a lot of yield without going down the credit spectrum. Like that is pretty cool. And if you're running a balanced portfolio, gosh, I'm going to clip income, and income's a nice augmentation to, gosh, I'm going to hold some equities, and I'm going to clench my teeth. Like I got equities, they've done pretty well, but I think they still will. But now I got some income attached to it. So it's a pretty cool time to do that. I've lived for a couple of decades with interest rates at zero. Remember negative interest rates in Europe, the dumbest invention in history? Like that's crazy. Like we're lending money to companies and paying them to take the money. Now it's the opposite, particularly for Europe, like because of the currency benefit. Like we're getting really, really good yields for good companies.
Right. No, for sure. All right. Let me ask you a question more specific to BlackRock. So, obviously one of the world's largest asset managers, recently invested in Dynasty. So thank you for that. We certainly appreciate it. How do you guys, on behalf of the leadership team, how are you thinking about, deploying intellectual capital, size and scale in a way that's incredibly beneficial to your client base?
So listen, I think a big part of it is technology.
Yep.
How are we cutting edge, and we run our Aladdin risk system. And I say this to
Are you a tech or an asset management company?
Yeah, so I don't know is the answer. Hopefully we're doing both of them.
Yeah.
But, I say this to rating agencies, consultants, that listen, at the end of the day, I'm never going to embarrass you because we didn't know what a risk was. Like, will there, and hopefully I don't embarrass them otherwise, but, will we get the rate call, hopefully right more than wrong, but we're going to get some wrong. But we're not going to make a mistake in terms of we know what the stress points are. We know we built the scenarios. We run our models all night. That to me is big. Information flow through the organization is extraordinary. We've got people all around the world that are helping us analyze a healthcare company in Malaysia to a tech company in the UK. And so that, bringing all those resources together, the hard thing, the challenge for everybody, I think, is how do you do it efficiently?
Right.
And we're just trying to get chat rooms, AI, get all the data in a more efficient manner. But we think harnessing all that information is hugely powerful. And then offering products that is, where we think the puck is going, things like infrastructure, et cetera, to provide that to people.
Awesome. All right, we're coming off the turn. We're headed for home. You doing okay? You don't seem tired.
No, all right, so far. Thankfully, I'm not actually running.
Yeah, that goes for both of us. Trust me. All right. So one of the things that I think maybe we have in common is we both like to read. And I've heard you talk about how you really admire grit. As I do as well. Certainly you need that to be an entrepreneur. And you talked about the Orioles. I know you have quite an affinity for Cal Ripken, showed up every day, just delivered. And then I also know that you find some inspiration from great entrepreneurs, disruptors, innovators. I've heard you talk about Elon Musk and Steve Jobs and others. So, as we sit here today, perhaps what you're reading or where you're getting ideas from, what's inspiring you, from a visionary perspective today?
I mean, I really believe in tech, and I believe in, I talked about Elon Musk and by the way, not just Elon Musk, but watching what companies like Meta and Google. And I mean, this is an NVIDIA. I mean, if you think about all these companies, this is the wild blue yonder of where we're going on automation and the evolution of things. So that to me, I think is, so I don't read a lot of traditional investment books, and not because I figured it out for sure, but I like reading about people who are thinking about, what's the next thing? What is the next thing that is going to change, and how is the world going to evolve, and around the world, and trying to understand that. But that to me is like, I think that is so cool about where the world's going. And I have to say, like, part of the grit thing and athletes, I've gotten to meet, get to know pretty well Michael Jordan and people like that, just through a huge honor being in the business. And you watch how people like that, and I've talked with him and others about, like, how do you have the drive and the energy? And it's just this, desire to succeed. That's pretty amazing. I think you have, and that, this, I always say when I interview people, like, I'd say, what are you looking for in a resume? And what do you, what's a skill set? And like, I just want to know, like, in their core, like, what is that desire to be good at what you're doing? And I think, I'm super inspired by the people that have that.
Yeah, to build a dynasty, right?
Totally.
I mean, that's
Totally.
part of why we named the company Dynasty. It's hard to win once. It's really hard to keep winning, right? So it
Totally.
means sustained excellence. And,
Totally.
when we hire people, we always talk about looking for attitude over skills, right? And not attitude, no skills, right? But attitude over
Totally.
skills. But if you get the attitude, the drive, the competitiveness, the work ethic alongside of the skill, right? That's when you have someone like a Michael Jordan. And
Totally
they're hard
agree.
to find, but special when it
Totally
all
agree.
comes together.
Where in a resume, I've hired a lot of people that have academically incredibly proficient, and it almost feels like they've succeeded at that point, like they did it.
Yeah.
And but there's something in that in their gut that I think is differentiated.
I think it was Ace Greenberg, right? Used to talk about the PhDs,
Totally.
poor, hungry, and the desire to become successful. And those were the people that he looked for. So, all right, here we are. Last question. It's the same question, Rick, I ask everyone who's been, I think this is maybe episode 55 or so. Same question everyone gets, and it's around the Triple Crown. And when I say, what is your Triple Crown? What I mean is, in racing, that's this big, almost seemingly unattainable goal that's out there that if you're a jockey, a trainer, an owner, the whole team is getting up every morning hoping to attain, even though it almost seems like it's too far to reach. So you've had remarkable career. I'd like to think it's still early
I hope so.
in your career. But what's left out there for you in terms of what would your Triple Crown be?
So I don't know if it's three. It's supposed to be in threes, but I have signs around my house, including when I walk out of my bedroom in the morning, that says "Work hard, play hard, give back, reboot." And I live my life, and that's all I'm trying to do. Is like, can I be hopefully top of my field, or I strive to be in what I do day in and day out. I'm a crazy sports fan, play golf. I watch sports, and anyway, I love my friends, my family. I just want to hang out and play hard. And then I do a lot in urban education with kids in Atlanta, city of Newark. And I really believe in that dynamic. Can you give kids that I had a pretty good chance growing up, and our economic situation went up and down. But at one point, I had a really, really good education. And this idea that you can give kids that same chance. So anyway, so I really believe in that. And my life is like crazy simple. I've stripped out, I know at this point in life, I'm not going to be the most cultured person in the world, or I'm not going to be. I just care about those three things, and that's the whole gig for me.
I love it. I'd say with youth all the time, what they see is what they'll be.
Right.
Right. And you just have to put that positive, role model.
Yeah.
And it just takes, one person caring about a child to make a huge difference. Certainly saw that in my life. Actually, my step granddad who raised me. And I like to think about not, people say, oh, do you want to leave the ladder down? I said, no, I don't want to leave the ladder down. I want to help build escalators to help more people come up. And it certainly seems like that's your mentality as well. So thank you so much for sitting down and having this conversation. It was a lot of fun.
Super fast. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for tuning in for another edition of Around the Track.